Comment with the Waupun Police Department. From the Daily Dodge TV studio, here's News Director Kevin Haugen.
Wally, and good afternoon. Welcome into today's Community Comment. Again, I am your host, Kevin Haugen. It is my pleasure to welcome into our Daily Dodge TV studio our guests here on our program this afternoon, again with the Waupun Police Department. It's my pleasure to welcome into the conversation Chief Jeremy Rosh and Deputy Chief Ted Sullivan. Thank you, gentlemen, both so much for coming in today.
Thanks for having us, Kevin.
Thank you.
All right, and if you have a question for our guests throughout the program today, you can call into the show at 887-9595. Again, the phone number 887-9595, or you can text 885-4446. We'll get to those throughout our program this afternoon. But gentlemen, it's been, I believe, now a month since your last show, or 2 months, I believe.
Yeah.
July was our last one. In the middle of summer, now school's starting, fall's right around the corner. Weather's getting cold. Any big changes with the police department as now you shift from the warm summer months into the fall, winter months, or is it just still the same as always?
Yeah, probably a lot less traffic during the day. Kids are in school, not out and about, running the streets a little bit. But we respond to basically the same type of complaints throughout the year, so on a regular basis. But it was an exciting week for us. We had an oath of office for both Lieutenant Mike Novice and Lieutenant of Investigations Bobby Williams. So exciting to get those guys in those positions and kind of complete the transition here. And they're going to do great in their new roles, and we're continuing to move forward. Obviously, Ted Sullivan is with me here today, and he's excited as well because he can concentrate more on one position than two, and that's what I'm excited about for myself as well. But a couple other things with staffing, we are hiring. We're currently in a hiring process. We need 2 more patrol officers at this point. And since the last show, 2 officers, Officer Dax Roberts and Officer John Cooperi, successfully completed field training. And Officer Cole Bryce, he successfully completed the Recruit Academy up at Fox Valley Tech, and he is currently in our field training program. So a lot of things going on at the department staff-wise, and some changes in transitioning.
Right now, we talked a little bit before we came on today, just where things were at with staffing, a little bit of a preview for myself. And obviously, best case scenario, 100% staff. You got everyone on board, every position's filled. But the fact that just two positions are open and left is a good spot to be in. You feel like that's something that you can, reach out and get applications for. Is there anything that I guess that people can look for if they're interested in applying? Is it going to the City of Waupun website, or I believe WileyNet is another resource that people can go to?
Yeah, normally WileyNet or our police department website. Our process deadline was about a week ago, so we already have all the applicants, and we're going to move forward with this process. But who's to say we might have another process here within the next month or so.
Yeah. And Chief, I know since coming, I believe last February or March, around that time was when you came on board. Was that kind of an emphasis for you when you started? Was looking at getting all these positions filled up and reaching out and finding ways to get people in and having people hired and working in that in the department?
Yeah, that's a major emphasis. I think for our department, myself, other departments, we're all battling to get the same people, but we don't want to lower standards. We want to bring in good people. They might have life experience somewhere else, and that tends to help those employees grow and learn how to become a successful police officer.
Again, the phone numbers for the program today, 887-9595, or you can text 885-4446. We do have a caller on line 1. Let's head to the phones and say welcome to Community Comment. Hello, you're on the air. Maybe not. All right. Well, we'll wait if we can get if we hear a fourth voice come in. Maybe I'll know that we had gotten to the phones and that we are able to get to that caller. But if not, caller, you can hang on, or we can wait and see if we get to you at some point. But if not, we're just going to keep moving along with our conversation here. And Chief, I know you're able to bring in a guest today, which you mentioned is Deputy Chief Ted Sullivan. Chief Deputy, you have been here on Community Comment before. You mentioned it's been a while and maybe a different capacity then, but it's good to have a second member of the Waupun Police Department. And maybe before we go into, I believe talking a bit about training and some other things here with you today on our program, maybe if you don't mind just spending a moment or two talking about what a chief deputy does at a police department. Obviously, chief oversees everything. They're the man in charge. But as a deputy chief, what is your role within the Waupun Police Department?
Well, it's often serving as basically the other half of our chief. We work together basically on nearly everything we do. I guess given my background in investigations, whereas the chief has not had that background, I would see myself as more of somebody who can be in the field, dealing more with the operations, the processes that have to take place with respect to, something as simple as a theft investigation or complex theft investigation to something as complex as a homicide case. So, given my background, I would be likely the person essentially on scene, kind of helping direct while he can handle other administrative issues, maybe back at the office or potentially on scene as well. But I think more or less the operations end of it would be more my end because of my background. I've been doing this for nearly 28 years too, so I think I've got the most years of service in the police department right now. So I guess that serves all of us very well, I think, and just having seen so many things throughout my career, I guess, knowing how to handle them and what to do next, what our next steps are, and looking forward to potentially, prosecution and so forth.
Fantastic. I've gotten word from our producer today that, Wally, that our caller, I believe we got him back on the line, so I want to take this time to head back to the phones and say welcome into Community Comment.
It's me, Kevin.
Hi, Tyler. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. You?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Here's one for the chief. What got you into law enforcement? If you could have done any other thing, would you have done law enforcement or would you have done something else?
Well, that's a good question. I think I've been asked this question in the past by somebody, but what got me into law enforcement is obviously in school you take you go to the guidance counselor. They give you some type of tests or surveys, and it helps you figure out where you want to go with your career. But ultimately, doing ride-alongs, doing an internship, that helped mold where I want to go into this field. And then, continuing with studies in college, that also helped my decision on, going into law enforcement. And, 9/11 was another reason. That happened about a month before I went to police recruit school, so I think that solidified my decision at that point. And if I was going to go into another field, that's a good question. Probably some type of service field, I believe, whether it would be teaching, fire, something in that area.
Well, thank you for your service. Appreciate it.
Thanks for the call.
Yep.
Thanks again, Tyler, for the phone call. The number, again, 887-9595 if you want to get on Community Comment today. And, again, our guests are Waupun Police Department Chief Jeremy Rosh and Deputy Chief Ted Sullivan. And I want to go back to the Deputy Chief here and kind of dive into some of the training components here. Are we looking at upcoming trainings or just the training program in general? I'll just hand over the mic to you and let you dive into it.
Sure. I think both the chief and I have some information on that, but fall tends to be a little bit busier time frame in our calendar year as far as our training is concerned. We recently, actually this week, we just finished emergency vehicle operations training, where we actually go to a course and test our skills and talk about high-risk traffic stops, things of that nature, which there is a new model that we're using this year as of 2024. So we're learning about the high-risk model for traffic stops and also just continuing to be up to date on what our restrictions are for pursuits and so forth, and what we need to know as far as just our capabilities. I think there have been some recent events within Dodge County here that show that it is dangerous for us to operate at high speeds, and that things can happen, crashes and so forth. So we all have to be trained to the best of our abilities and knowledge, and sometimes that gives us a baseline for how well we can actually drive. It's good to know that, and it's good to test your skills. So along with that, we incorporate the high-risk stops as well as vehicle contacts, meaning what we do when we approach drivers on any vehicle stop. So making sure that safety is always paramount for us, making sure that the other motoring public are safe as well. So. And I think the chief has some additional stuff regarding the training.
Yeah, and every officer is required to do 24 hours of training each year. So, like Ted said, we try to get a lot of our training in fall and then in winter when maybe the call volumes are a little bit less than spring and summer, and because a lot of times it requires officers to come in on off days for overtime and such. But we got a lot of department-wide training coming up. Ted just mentioned EVOC, but firearms, CPR, crime scene investigations, active shooter incident management, and some other standardized field sobriety trainings that are in the near future. But we also send officers out to tech schools and conferences and things like that. We have an officer at a training today. He's at tint meter training, so testing the tint on vehicles, and because there are a lot of violations with out there right now, and tint can actually be dangerous for law enforcement because of the inability to view the inside of a vehicle. And Ted's got a little bit of information on tint, but Officer Warner is the one that's attending tint meter training. He's very interested in traffic enforcement, and it's a passion of his.
Yeah, we'll get to vehicle tints and the laws surrounding that in just a moment. But, Chief, I just want to ask you one additional follow-up question. And yeah, you mentioned the 24 hours of training. I believe you said throughout the course of the year that the officers need to complete that amount of training. But just how important is it that that's factored into kind of that yearly schedule for them and going out and learning updates? I mean, because laws change. There's new updates to policies and procedures that you guys have to follow. So how important is that for your department to continue following those changes and keeping up with those things?
Right, extremely important. Not only for the reasons you cited with policy and statutory requirements, and there are certain policies that are required by statute, but just to each officer has kind of different goals and different interests. So if we can provide them with opportunities, that's going to help us retain employees as well. And they can bring that information back and share it with others and train others. And ultimately, we will become a more successful police department as a whole, because we are trying to be well-rounded and give people opportunities that they want. So, yeah, extremely important.
Great, fantastic. Now, you mentioned one of the officers today is in one of those trainings, and they're learning about vehicle tints, and obviously there's certain tint levels that can't be crossed and thresholds that can't be exceeded when tinting vehicles. And Deputy Chief Ted Sullivan here, so there are already laws on the books that people need to follow, and I feel like sometimes you're driving down the side of the road, you look over and you're looking at a car that you can't even see inside it. You don't even know if anyone's in there. It's that dark. But just what are some of the laws and things that people need to be aware about if they are going to go about tinting their windows on their vehicles?
Sure. So basically, I mean, there are some basic light transmittant percentages that are allowed for both the front side windows, what I mean for the front driver and or front passenger side. Those are going to be a 50% visible light transmittance. For the rear windows, so the back seat passengers, that would be a 50% visible light transmittance. So, and also that applies to the rear window. So those are the actual percentages that are allowed. So there are tint meters that we will have the officers carry within the squad cars if they end up initiating a traffic stop for what they perceive to be a tint violation. They will utilize the tint meter, which is essentially something that will be placed on the window that will measure that percentage of light transmittance. So But in addition to that, the windshield tinting is something that has been a very growing problem that we've seen. So there are folks that tint from the bottom up, which is completely illegal. There is called an AS1 line, which is located approximately 8 inches down the windshield. So there's a line on each windshield from the manufacturer that a person is not allowed to tint below that line. So anything above that line or up to that line is legal tint. So, but again, we've seen it where there's tinted up from the bottom, 6 inches approximately, and down below that 8-inch line, which to 10 inches, where there's essentially a narrow view window. So any of that is going to be illegal. So certainly anything from the bottom up is illegal, but use that AS1 line as your guide as to what would be legal tint on the front windshield. Some do come from the manufacturer, somewhat tinted. I think there was a Buick back in the day that it would come from the manufacturer with the tint on the window. That is legal from the manufacturer. Anything that's done post manufacture that reduces that light transmittance is going to be illegal. And in addition to that, I mean, like the chief had said, it poses an officer safety issue with us, especially when it's night out, where you don't have just the normal daylight or sunlight helping illuminate the interior of the car. So when you come up behind a car and it's completely dark, it's a officer safety issue for us. We don't know what they're doing inside the car, among other things. One other thing I just want to touch on, there are two things, I guess. If you purchase a vehicle from a dealership that is already previously tinted, that does not make it legal for you to continue using that illegal tint. So just because it's purchased that way does not mean that it's legal. It would be up to that dealership or whomever you purchase it from to either reduce it to a legal level, or you in turn may have to do that if you're stopped. The other thing about the windshield is some folks have started lining the sides of the windshields with certain car manufacturer names, whatever. The only legal stickers that are allowed on a front windshield would be the legal state or federally issued, like park stickers and such, where they're going to be only placed in the lower left-hand corner of the window. That is it. There's nothing more that should be on any other part of the windshield other than that lower left corner. And just for folks that may want to know, the citation for an illegal tint is about $175.30, and it's a trans 305 violation, which is another, list of codes that we can utilize for some of the not so common violations, I guess would be the way to put it. So, and it's a 2-point violation too. So 2 points assessed against your license if you get stopped and cited for that.
You mentioned, Chief Deputy, that it is a safety concern for officers, and if they can't see what's happening inside the vehicle on a traffic stop. Is it also a concern, obviously, for people in the vehicle driving, that these windows are so heavily tinted that they're not able to have a good view of traffic around them, and maybe pedestrians walking on the sidewalk? Is that another reason why that there are certain laws and limitations in place that prevent windows from going past that threshold of when they're tinted?
Absolutely. I think that anyone who's been in a vehicle with tinted windows would agree with that. I mean, I think once the light goes down, once you don't have that natural sunlight, it absolutely will inhibit your ability to see.
Yeah, and we talk about probable cause all the time for pulling a vehicle over, for initiating a traffic stop. Is that something that would allow an officer to pull a vehicle over? I've seen a window that, obviously it's hard to tell when they're driving and they're looking. Obviously you need to pull out the equipment to be able to test it, but is that something that an officer can use as probable cause to initiate a traffic stop if they see a vehicle that they believe is overly tinted?
Yes, it is. It's actually reasonable suspicion to stop.
Okay.
So probable cause is actually a higher level, but
Gotcha.
It does allow an officer it's a primary reason for a traffic stop, yes.
So it is something that if your windows are heavily tinted, you could be pulled over. And you mentioned it's a $75 fee and then 2 demerit points against your license if you are found in violation
Yes.
of that law. Again, we are chatting with members of the Waupun Police Department. We have with us Chief Jeremy Rosh and Deputy Chief Ted Sullivan. Spent the last few minutes talking about tinted windows and just how to prevent breaking the law so you're not getting fined and getting demerit points against your license. But we also want to shift our focus and talk about an event. It's a couple of weeks away. We got some time yet before it's here yet. But while you guys are in, we want to highlight this event. And anyone with prescription medication or drugs that they want to get rid of, there are daily opportunities or weekday opportunities, I should say, to get rid of those at the Waupun Police Department. But I'll let either the chief or deputy chief jump in on this one. But there is an event happening next month that really kind of focuses on getting rid of these prescription drugs.
Correct. Yes, the drug take back event, the nation or the statewide event, is going to be October 26th of 2024. There are going to be in-person locations then where folks can actually drop off medications. I'm not aware of any locally per se. The Dodge County Sheriff's Office has done them in the past. We do not host an in-person event. However, we do have a drug drop box that's located in the lobby of the Waupun Police Department. It is open typically from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. Monday through Friday. In the event that somebody has some drugs that they wish to drop off during the off hours, they can certainly contact one of our officers, contact the dispatch center, have one of our officers meet them, and then they can open up the lobby area to allow them access to the site. And as far as if a person has any questions regarding any in-person take-back events or any permanent drop-box locations, there is a website. It's www.doseofrealitywi.gov. So that's doseofrealitywi.gov, and then drug take-back would be the word after that. So those will give you the current sites that are going to host in-person events, and that'll give you the sites of the drop boxes. And just a side note to this, we're more than appreciative to take your medications. However, there are some folks that bring things that we are not allowed to take, and they're dropped in the box. So I just want to touch on a few of the things that you can bring. So prescription medications, whether they're controlled or non-controlled, over-the-counter medications, ointments, inhalers, patches, non-aerosol sprays, creams, vape cartridges and devices with the batteries removed, vials, and pet medications. So the vape cartridges are new. Those are things that obviously with our current environment and folks wanted to use vape cartridges versus smoking cigarettes. But they are now accepting vape cartridges with the devices and with the batteries removed. The things that we cannot accept, though, are illegal drugs. So any type of illegal drug that you shouldn't be having anyway, we are not able to take. Needles and sharps we cannot take. Mercury thermometers, aerosol cans, biohazardous materials, flares, personal care products such as shampoos, soaps, lotions, etc. Household hazardous waste like paint, pesticides, and chemicals, acids, or any other vape devices that contain the batteries of any kind. So again, we're more than happy to help you out and take your medications, but make sure that you're following the rules. There are rules posted along with our drop box that you can read through the rules and make sure that you're placing the medications in a clear Ziploc bag. We do provide those for you, and if you bring them with yourself, that would be great too. So,
yeah, and it's so important to utilize these methods of getting rid of prescription medications instead of, say, throw them in the garbage, flushing them down the toilet, because there is, when these medications are collected, I believe, Chief, this is something I talked about in the past, that they're round up and taken and incinerated, I believe.
Correct.
That's how they're disposed of, and that's the best way to go about getting rid of these drugs.
100%. And, like we talked about around the spring drug drop time, we're typically in the top 2 or 3 in the country for take back. So that's pretty amazing for a state that's not that heavily populated.
Yeah, no, it's good to see people utilizing that method to properly dispose of prescription medications and other drugs that they may have, and getting rid of those and putting those in the hands of the proper people, and they can dispose of them in the right manner and get rid of them that way. We only have just a few minutes left here on our program this afternoon. With that time, I want to give the Waupun Police Department an opportunity to highlight some events here happening just around the corner here in the Waupun community. So, Chief, take it away. What can people look forward to?
Yeah. First off, I'd like to thank everybody for their support with our Canine Brat Fry, the Police Lights of Christmas event, and also the Cops on a Rooftop event and fundraisers. So thanks to the communities and everybody that came out to support those great events. But coming up, we got bulk pickup dates, September 30th to October 2nd in the city of Waupun. I believe put your bulk pickup out on the day that your garbage gets picked up. So if your garbage gets picked up on the 30th, don't put your bulk pickup out on the 2nd because your bulk pickup will stay there. October 4th, 4 p.m., homecoming parade. Excited for that one. October 5th, we got a ribbon cutting for the food truck alley on East Main Street. There's a little event there from 10 a.m. till 2 p.m. Excited for the food truck alley.
Yeah.
October 7th, open house at the fire department. They're celebrating 150 years of service. That's at 5:30 on October 7th. October 21st, open house at utilities. They're celebrating 130 years of service for the water utility and 125 years of service for the electric utility. That's from 11:30 to 2 p.m. on the 21st of October. One of my favorite events, Halloween on Main Street. That is October 26th from 2 to 4 p.m. Main Street will be shut down and a detour will be in place for the safety of everybody participating in that event. And then we'll have Halloween, citywide Halloween after that from 4 until 6, October 26th. Remember that date. And then another new exciting thing is the community center is going to be opening up pretty soon. Probably sometime mid-October. They don't have an exact date yet. But the last thing I want to bring up is, let me pull it up so I don't mess this up because the city clerk sent me an email. So for the November 5th election, the general election, due to the large number of voters that attend and for safety and accessibility reasons, such as more parking, ground floor entrance, no stairs, and larger voting area. They are looking at possibly moving the election location. Normally it's at City Hall. They're looking at a couple other venues. So possibly the new community center if there's occupancy, or possibly the ice rink community center. Those two locations they're looking at. It's going to be considered for relocating on the September 24th Committee of the Whole meeting date. So stay tuned for that. There will be more information being pushed out for that. But the early voting will be held at the clerk's office at City Hall. So early voting will still be held in the same location. Ted, do you have anything to add?
No, just one added thing about Cops and Culvers. That was one event that I don't think that you touched on, but we this is our first year doing it, and we ended up collecting. We were one of the top 5 agencies in the state of Wisconsin on a first year doing it. So certainly huge thanks to our community for supporting us and those who passed through Waupun, and we were very happy to be a part of that and look forward to doing more next year.
Fantastic. And again, our guests on Monday happen to be the Waupun Fire Department, so I'm sure we'll chat more about the open house and details and all information pertinent to that event we'll share with our audience this coming Monday. So look forward to that. And I want to thank our guests here again on Community Comment today. Joining us this afternoon, Chief of the Waupun Police Department, Jeremy Rosh, and Deputy Chief Ted Sullivan. Thank you both so much for coming in today.
Thanks, Kevin.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
And that will do it for today's Community Comment.